Hi, I'm Amanda Martin, and I would like to share with you a fun and engaging STEM lesson. For this lesson, Jason Martin and I incorporated science, social studies, and music standards to form a lesson for sixth grade students that requires them to complete a science engineering activity. They will be building a musical instrument. This lesson is actually introduced at the end of a unit, and so they're kind of bringing everything full circle, and it's lesson 6 of 6, but that can also be adjusted depending on your lesson and the time that you have with your students. We begin the lesson with a brief review of all of the characteristics of the Paleolithic era. We also call that prehistory, or as the students like to call it, the Stone Age. Students will be working in their assigned groups, and these are the groups that they've been working with for the past several weeks. So they already know who they're working with, and they're already seated in those groups when the class begins. So the first assignment, as already said, is a review, but they are completing a graffiti wall. And so they will have 3 minutes with their group to compile all the characteristics of prehistory that they can recall and put it on their graffiti wall. When the 3 minutes is up, they're going to rotate. And again, they have participated in activities like this before. But when they rotate, they're going to be coding another group's wall. And they'll be doing that twice. And what that means is they'll go and they'll look through the information on that group's graffiti wall, and they will code it. So if it has a check mark, it's something that they agree with, something that they actually wrote on their graffiti wall. If you see an exclamation mark, it's something that they didn't think of. And then the other item that they're looking for is something that doesn't make sense or something that's probably not accurate, and that's the final task that they do. Then once they've done that with two other groups' graffiti walls, they will come back together, and as a class they will complete a graffiti wall. And we instruct students for every group to give 2 items to contribute to the group's graffiti wall, and so we can contribute and place that on the smartboard.
After we finish the graffiti wall, we're going to transition into showing pictures that we showed previously of different types of instruments that were in the Paleolithic era. Each instrument's going to have its own pictures, and we're going to have our students turn and talk to one another and talk about and deduce how they think the instruments themselves make noises. Once they turn and talk, we're going to share our findings, have a class discussion, and if we need be, we're going to steer them in the direction of talking about vibrations, making pitch and sounds. Then we're going to give them their opportunity. This is kind of where STEAM comes into play, because we are actually going to have several different materials of nature that you would see back then. That kind of puts them in a position of how they were in the Paleolithic era, where they get to choose with their groups 2 different materials in which they got to come up with and make their own instruments. They're going to use a scientific method during this time, and they're going to deduce, they're going to create their own hypothesis, and they're going to go through the steps of if it makes noise or not. And if it made the noise that they thought it would make, that's when we're going to come together as a class again, and each group has 2 minutes to present their findings and see if their instruments worked in general. And we think that's going to be a real good hook. Kids love the hands-on projects and seeing if they can come up with the right deductions from going through the scientific method.
The final activity in this lesson has all of our students coming back together to complete a ticket out the door, just to bring their learning to a close and assess their learning. We really feel like that this lesson is a great way to keep students engaged and motivated, because they always love a challenge, and giving them these random materials and they have to basically pretend to be a caveman and find a new invention, a new instrument. So we really think that's a great challenge for our students, and it pulls in the music, social studies, science, engineering standards all into one lesson. We hope you enjoyed this presentation.